The story of this maniac is shocking in its cruelty. He spent $100,000 creating a torture van, drove across America, and looked for women to subject them to hellish torments. His girlfriend and daughter helped him torture and kill victims, and the police couldn't catch them for 40 years. Meet David Parker Ray, one of the most prolific and brutal serial killers in history. David Parker Ray was born on November 6, 1939, in the American city of Belen, New Mexico. Little is known about the future maniac's childhood. He and his sister were raised by their grandfather, but the boy often saw his father, who regularly raised his hand against the child. His father also gave his son adult magazines with a sadistic slant, which might have influenced the maniac's future fascinations. In adolescence, Ray began to be bullied by classmates because he was shy around girls. He started seeking solace in alcohol, then moved on to heavier substances. Already in his school years, the future maniac was consumed by thoughts of torturing and killing women. One day, his sister discovered Ray's drawings, where he vividly depicted his fantasies. After finishing high school, the young man joined the army. Later, Ray married 4 times, but each marriage eventually fell apart. During this time, he had 2 children. Subsequently, Ray's daughter became an accomplice in his horrific crimes. It's hard to say when David Parker Ray began his killing spree. Police suggest that his criminal career lasted almost 50 years. All this time, they simply couldn't catch him. The investigation didn't even suspect that a serial killer was operating right under their noses. He only came to the attention of the police after one victim managed to escape. Cynthia Vigil's escape. On March 22, 1999, the Elephant Butte Dispatch Office received a call from trailer residents. They reported that a strange young woman had literally crawled to them. The arriving patrol was shocked by her appearance. Officer Jones later admitted that she was the strangest girl he had seen in 24 years of police service. She turned out to be 22-year-old Cynthia Vigil. The only clothing on the woman was a steel collar, and her entire body was covered in abrasions, cuts, and burns. After receiving medical attention, the girl told detectives a shocking story. On March 19, 1999, Cynthia, working as a prostitute, was looking for a client in a parking lot in Albuquerque. A man approached her, introduced himself as an undercover police officer, and arrested her for prostitution. He handcuffed her and put her in the back seat of his car. Then he drove the girl to a trailer parked in a secluded area. What happened over the next 3 days was something Cynthia couldn't even imagine in her worst nightmares. David and his girlfriend, Cindy Hendy, tied the girl to a chair resembling a gynecological one, then subjected her to torture for 3 days. They used an entire arsenal consisting of dozens of instruments for inflicting pain. Before this, the maniacs played a tape for the girl that showed the abuse of another woman in that very chair. According to Cynthia, they wanted to clearly demonstrate what awaited her in the near future. The tape also contained some instructions. Ray explained to the victim how to behave. The girl could only call him master and his partner mistress. She was also forbidden to speak without permission. Here's just a small fragment of the maniac's speech. This recording is being made on July 23, 1993, as a general advisory tape for future female captives. The information I am about to give you is based on my experience with captives over several years. If there are any major changes in our procedures in the future, the recording will be updated. You are clearly here against your will, completely helpless. You don't know where you are, and you have no idea what will happen to you. Very scared or very angry. I'm sure you're trying to free your wrists and ankles and have realized you can't. Now you're just waiting for what happens next. Cynthia noted that on the recording, Ray spoke all these gruesome things, calmly and confidently, as if murder and torture were routine activities for him. The maniac also promised to kill the girl after all the abuse. The maniac's arrest. On the third day of terrible torture, Cynthia had a chance to escape. Ray went to work, leaving his partner to watch the victim. It was she who accidentally left the keys to the handcuffs near where the girl was chained. Seizing the opportunity, Cynthia reached for them and freed her hands. Noticing this, Hendy tried to stop her, but the victim was quicker. She ran out of the trailer, completely naked. She had a metal collar around her neck and heavy chains around her wrists. She desperately knocked on the door of a neighboring trailer. She was lucky. The owner was home and opened the door. After listening to the girl, he called the police. They immediately went to search for David Parker Ray and his partner, but they weren't in the trailer. The maniacs were searching the area for the escaped victim. That's where they were arrested. When investigators entered the trailer, they were in for a real shock. The unassuming-looking van was actually a torture chamber inside. Hundreds of instruments for inflicting pain were hung on the walls, and in the center stood a chair resembling a gynecological one. It had straps to secure the victim, and a large mirror hung from the ceiling. Through it, the poor girls could see everything that was being done to them. In addition to all this, 643 discs and tapes with perverse content were found in the trailer. Some of these recordings were made by Ray himself and his wife. The police played a disc that was in the player at the time, and a shocking sight unfolded before them. In an 81-minute recording, Ray continuously tortured a woman, thoroughly enjoying the process. Police later determined that while the trailer itself cost $100,000, the sadistic torture equipment inside cost at least $24,000. The van was also completely soundproofed. All of this confirmed the fact that unimaginable torture and murder were fun entertainment for him. Accomplices and victims. After Ray's arrest, police discovered that his 31-year-old daughter, Jessie Ray, also helped the maniac commit these horrific crimes. It was she who, on July 24, 1996, brought another victim to her father, her friend Kelly Gret. That ill-fated evening, Kelly had an argument with her husband and decided to distract herself by going to play pool with Jessie. The maniac's daughter drugged her and drove her to her father's trailer, where he abused her for 2 days straight. After that, Ray slit the unfortunate girl's throat and left her on the side of the road. By some miracle, Kelly survived, and the maniacs could have gone to jail much earlier. Unfortunately, they were very lucky. Neither her husband nor the police believed the girl. Her husband even thought that Kelly had cheated on him after the argument and made up the abduction story as an excuse. But what about the police? Why didn't law enforcement investigate after this egregious story? The fact is that David Parker Ray drugged each victim with a powerful cocktail of potent drugs. Because of this, the girls couldn't remember what had happened, or their memories were too fragmented and hazy. This also happened with Kelly. She couldn't recall almost any details, but firmly knew that she had been abducted and tortured. After the arrest of Ray and his accomplices, another victim came forward to the police, Angelica Montana. She was an acquaintance of the maniac and once came to his home for pie ingredients. Ray tied her up, drugged her with his cocktail of drugs, and subjected her to torture, after which he released her. Police found Angelica walking naked in the desert. However, this time too, no one investigated the situation because the kidnapped woman couldn't recall any details. The second time, they finally listened to her, and Angelica's testimony helped strengthen the case against the maniac. Realizing that there was no way to escape, Ray's accomplice, Cindy, broke down. She agreed to tell investigators about all the murders she knew of. Ray himself stated that he had another accomplice, his friend Dennis Roy Jens. After his arrest, he confessed to killing a girl named Mary Parker after Ray and his daughter tortured her for several days. The trial proved extremely difficult. Not only did the known victims poorly remember the details of their abductions, but investigators couldn't even name an approximate number of victims of David Parker Ray's actions. They couldn't understand any logic. He released some girls, killed others. The trial lasted almost 2 years. During all this time, investigators were unable to prove Ray's involvement in a single murder. The FBI insisted that more than 60 women had died at the hands of the maniacs, but they themselves were in no hurry to reveal all the details of their horrific crimes. The diaries found by the police, in which the criminals described the murders of at least 5 girls in detail, also did not help. The main problem was that the police were unable to find other bodies of victims. But even with them, there would have been another difficulty. The murders would have had to be linked directly to Ray, which was virtually impossible without direct evidence. In the end, David Parker Ray was sentenced to 224 years in prison for kidnapping, assault, and torture. His accomplice, Cindy Hendy, received 36 years, but was released early on July 15, 2019. But what outraged the public most was the sentence for Parker Ray's daughter. The court sentenced her to only 2.5 years in prison, plus 5 years of probation. After her release, she wrote a book titled My Dad's Lair. David himself spent the least amount of time in prison. A year after his sentencing, on May 28, 2002, the sadist died of a heart attack at the age of 62. With his passing, investigators lost hope of learning more details about the crimes he committed. Most likely, we will never know how many people these maniacs abducted and killed. But even the information we have is enough to recognize David Parker Ray as one of the most brutal serial killers. His story also makes us ponder the horror that can happen right before our eyes, remaining unnoticed. Subscribe to the channel to listen to these real and scary stories. Sometimes these stories end well, but more often, badly. It's disturbing.